Welcome into the Commanders Report. I am your host, Jack Sperry, and on today's show, we're going to be talking about and reacting to ESPN's perfect offseason plan for the Washington Commanders that they just put up on their website earlier this week. We've got a bunch of great stuff coming your way. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button for extensive offseason coverage all throughout the 2024 offseason. As a Commanders fan, I don't have to tell you how important this offseason is. You're getting a new coaching staff, but probably a new quarterback. They're going to be doing a bunch of signings in free agency with the most cap space in the league this year. You got 5 picks in the top 100. This is going to be a massive offseason for this football team, so make sure you guys click that subscribe button every time they make a move. We're going to have you covered with a breaking news video, extensive coverage of NFL free agency and the NFL draft every single day right here on the Commanders Report. And oh yeah, it's all 100% free, so do me a favor, click that subscribe button right now. So in this article here, ESPN and their staff and their various writers here have compiled a bunch of different things in a bunch of different categories in terms of what the Washington Commanders and their fans can expect during the 2024 offseason. So we're going to break down all 4 of the major categories that they go over. First, we'll talk about the biggest offseason priority, then the under-the-radar priority, which is kind of interesting, the 2024 NFL draft outlook, and then the big prediction that they have for the Washington Commanders in 2024 will be at the end of today's show, so make sure you guys stick around. So the top priorities that they list for the Washington Commanders: number 1, you got to hire a new front office and a new head coach, and number 2, you need to decide on a new quarterback. This is what the ESPN staff had to say about the top priorities for the Washington Commanders. Revamping the front office and coaching staff is obviously the first thing on the list. New owner Josh Harris decided to move on from Coach Ron Rivera's tenure. Rivera had final say in all football decisions and hired the front office, but Harris is hiring 49ers assistant GM Adam Peters as the team's new general manager. He bought the team in July and needs to re-energize the organization and then settle on a quarterback. Sam Howell threw 21 touchdown passes and 21 interceptions in 2023. And personally, guys, my thoughts on this is that I completely agree. You got to set the foundation for success for this organization moving forward. And really the 2 first things that you have to take care of, you need to make sure you got your head coach and your front office figured out so that they can cultivate a culture of winning here in Washington. But then also, what's the most important position on the field? Easy answer: quarterback. You got to be able to get your quarterback of the future, especially if you have the opportunity to draft in the top 2 picks of the draft this year. So now, what's more important to you guys? Let me know down there in the comment section. Obviously, head coach and quarterback are 2 things the Commanders need to get right, but if you could pick only one to get right, would you rather pick the right head coach or would you rather pick the right quarterback? Let me know down there in the comment section for today's pinned comment. Type HC if you want the better head coach, or if you want the quarterback to be right over the head coach, type QB down there in the comment section. Then the under-the-radar priority that ESPN lists out for the Commanders is the offensive line. Now, personally, I'm not too sure how much under the radar that is, especially after you give up 65 sacks in a single season, but this is what ESPN had to say about the Commanders' offensive line. To help the quarterback, the Commanders have to address the offensive line. Washington allowed 65 sacks, a byproduct of a scheme, protection, and a young QB. The Commanders will possibly have at least 1 new tackle, center, and guard. Right guard Sam Cosmi, though, was excellent. So like I said, guys, I'm not too sure if this is an under-the-radar priority because, I mean, it's pretty obvious that they need to get a new tackle. They need to get another guard. They have to get a center, right? They have, I mean, a majority of the spots on their starting offensive line that they need to address this offseason. So, an under-the-radar priority, not too sure, but at the end of the day, I do agree that this is a need that the Commanders need to address. Now, still to come here on the Commanders Report, we're going to be going over ESPN's Commanders 2024 NFL Draft Outlook. Some pretty interesting things that they have to say there. And then also, still to come, we got the big prediction that they have for the Washington Commanders in 2024. But before we talk about those things, let's have a word from our sponsor here at Fanatics. And they've got this awesome Sean Taylor t-shirt on sale on their website right now. And listen, the offseason, I think, is the perfect opportunity for you guys to kind of stock up on your Commanders gear because that's when all the best deals are happening, including with our sponsor today, Fanatics. You can go to chatsports.com. /Taylor to get your hands on this awesome Sean Taylor t-shirt. It's kind of weird buying Commanders gear right now because they might change their logo. They might change their team name this offseason. So maybe you don't want to go get Commanders branded gear. Sean Taylor is always going to be a Washington football legend. So this is an investment you know you're not going to regret in the years to come. So make sure you go chatsports.com/Taylor to get your t-shirt in your size before they're all gone. Then we get into the NFL draft outlook here from ESPN for the Washington Commanders, and this is what they have to say. With a new regime entering the franchise, selecting a new signal caller early in the draft remains a possibility. Caleb Williams out of USC is likely to be selected first, but the Commanders could have a choice between Drake May out of North Carolina and Jaden Daniels out of LSU. Now, I would kind of quibble with the wording here. I don't think it's a possibility. I would probably categorize it as a probability at this point. I do not believe Sam Howell is the guy of the future here in Washington. And when you have the opportunity to draft a quarterback in the top 2 of the NFL draft, I think you have to take advantage of that if you are the Commanders. And really, I think it's down to the top 3 guys on my list here. This is my official quarterback prospect rankings to this point. J.J. McCarthy, if you're wondering, is number 6 on my list. But Caleb Williams, Drake May, and Jaden Daniels, those guys are going to be the first 3 signal callers off the board. And really, if it does come down to Drake May versus Jaden Daniels, it's going to be a very interesting discussion that the Washington Commanders and their new front office and their new coaching staff is going to have because they're 2 different types of quarterbacks for sure. Now, I'd be fine with either Drake May or Jaden Daniels. I'm perfectly fine letting Adam Peters in the scouting department kind of hash that out. All 3 of those guys, though, would be happy if the Commanders ended up drafting them. All right, so now make sure you click that subscribe button for extensive NFL draft coverage this offseason. Again, we're going to be having draft videos pretty much every single day leading up to the big day there in Detroit, especially when we get into April. So if you love the Commanders and you want to learn every single thing that there is to know about the Washington Commanders and their draft strategy this year and all the prospects coming out, make sure you click that subscribe button to never miss any of our draft videos this year right here on the Commanders Report. All right, now the big prediction that ESPN has for the Commanders is that they're going to bring back edge rusher Chase Young after just trading him away at the trade deadline. This is kind of surprising if you ask me, but this is what the ESPN staff has to say about bringing back Chase Young. The Commanders will surprise fans by bringing back edge rusher Chase Young on a big free agent contract after his short sojourn in San Francisco. The Commanders currently have the most projected cap space for 2024 and a definite need for edge rushers after trading Young and Montez Sweat away at midseason. Now, this would definitely be a little bit of a surprise. There was reports after he got traded that the players in the locker room didn't think he worked hard enough. The coaching staff didn't think he worked hard enough. There was kind of some tension between Chase Young and the Commanders, the people inside the building. So this would definitely be a surprise to me if he ended up choosing to come back. And honestly, guys, I just don't see it happening. I think Chase Young is going to go elsewhere. And honestly, I'm not even sure if the Commanders want to bring back Chase Young, especially if the people in the locker room don't particularly like his work ethic. Now, when it comes to free agency targets here, these are probably going to be the top 5 guys that the Commanders look like. I did include Chase Young, even though I don't think that's going to be very likely for them. Some guys to consider: Danielle Hunter is probably going to be one of the bigger names. The Minnesota Vikings are unlikely to bring him back in 2024, and really, I think that he's going to be the biggest name that isn't franchise tagged heading into free agency. You could also get Jadeveon Clowney, Za'Darius Smith, and Jonathan Greenard. I don't consider those latter 3 to be on the level of a Danielle Hunter, so I really hope the Commanders really throw as much money as they need to get Hunter in the building. But at the end of the day, all of these guys have been number 1 edge rushers throughout this year. Za'Darius, of course, was number 2 to Myles Garrett there in Cleveland. But then the teams that are going to be probably franchise tagging their free agent edge rushers are Jacksonville and Carolina, with Josh Allen and Brian Burns, respectively. With Dave Canales, the new head coach, going there to Carolina, maybe they decide to completely reboot the franchise and they let Brian Burns walk. In that case, absolutely throw whatever money you have to go get Brian Burns. But at the end of the day, I do think these 2 players, really good edge rushers, legit number 1 guys, and I think they're going to get franchise tagged here before they have the opportunity to hit the open market. Now, if they do sign Chase Young, all right, if the Commanders end up doing that with this new regime coming in, that is a huge middle finger to Ron Rivera and the rest of that prior front office and that prior regime because they're like, you don't like Chase Young, you trade him away? Well, we're going to bring him right back, and you guys made a massive mistake by letting him go. So if the Commanders end up making this move and Chase Young is back on a massive contract, I mean, that is seriously a big FU to Ron Rivera and this former regime. Now get creative for me down there in the comment section. ESPN told you kind of their surprising prediction for the Commanders this offseason. Now it's your turn. What is one surprising move that you could see the Washington Commanders making this offseason? Do you think they might trade down from number 2 overall? Is it kind of a surprising head coaching hire? Let me know down there in the comment section what your ideas are. Can't wait to hear from you down there in the comments. And that'll be it for today's edition of the Commanders Report. Thank you guys so much for sticking with me here till the end of today's show. Again, make sure you click that subscribe button to join our family today. It's going to be a massive offseason. We're going to have breaking news coverage when the Commanders hire their new head coach, which could be any second now. So make sure you click that subscribe button right now for the latest news and rumors surrounding the Washington Commanders.